Greetings everyone. So I found that Unity VR Injector Mod that basically turns your Unity flat game into a VR game. It's called VRGIN Template, I guess, and you can find it here on GitHub. I will post the URL to the video description. Just download the zip file down here. You will get the zip file, unzip it, and you get these files, right? So if you have a game that you want to mod, these are actually, by the way, the games that look quite good in VR. Not every Unity game works with this mod, but some do, with some minor inconveniences, but more on that later. So I freshly installed DARQ, and this is obviously a 2D side scroller. Oh, actually it's in 3D, I guess. The point is that we can mod it to show in VR. So to do that, go to your local files of the game, take the files from the mod and just copy them in here. So in the next step, you drag and drop the executable game file onto the IPA exe. It will do its magic, and voila, the game is patched or modded. Note that in this IPA folder you get some backups of your original game files. You can see here the file path, DARQ data, managed and plugins. If we go back to the original folder, we got those both here. So the original files are still there. Also there's a link file created by the mod. This basically checks if your game is already patched or modded and will launch the game. I never needed this one, but eventually the game gets an update through Steam, and to make sure the game is still modded, you can use that link. Alright, so the mod wouldn't support the VR controllers, unfortunately. But of course you can use still your regular Xbox controller or whatever you use, keyboard and mouse, to play these games. Okay, so next step would be to go to the properties of the game in your Steam library and uncheck the game theater up here, right? Uncheck this one and put the --VR launch option down here in this line. This makes sure the game would launch in VR. So we will switch to the VR view now. I'm using virtual desktop. Make sure that SteamVR is running. We switch back to the desktop view and we just start the game. Okay, you can say OK here, and we switch back to the VR view. And there we go. The game loads up in VR. Okay. This would happen many times when you test the mod on other games. The menu is like below us. But there's an easy way to solve that. The mod has certain shortcuts to control the position of the graphical user interface of the game. So in this case, we want to lift the interface up. We use numpad plus and minus to go up and down with the menu. Okay, so here we go. Minus pressed and it comes up right in front of our eyes. Also the curving of the screen can be adjusted in the mod settings, but more about that later. We have the game menu here. This is sometimes a problem with other games. Sometimes the menus don't show up. I will show you another example in another game later. But first we will start the game and see what's happening. Alright, there we are, and this is a perfect VR image. I can see it clearly in front of my eyes. It's really, really cool. So this is a good example in the game of a very good VR implementation of the Unity Injector Mod. One problem with this game especially, and by the way with some other games, is that the controller indicators are not shown. So if I go to this bed, if I wouldn't know that I have to press X here, I would just walk past it and couldn't progress in the game. But it's generally a good idea to check out the game in the flat version first, see how you navigate the menu, how the buttons are mapped, and see the interaction points, and then mod the game and play it in VR, because sometimes these indicators in the game are missing because of the mod. So here I press X, and this was actually an interaction point. This is so much better than on the screen, yes. Alright, this is DARQ. I've tested about 100 Unity games and found that only a tenth of all the games I tested would even show the game without any broken textures and somewhat playable. So don't expect too much from this Injector Mod, but it's definitely worth to try your flat games. Okay, and when you want to make some settings for the mod itself, again you go to the local files of your game, and you can see after you ran the game in VR both of these XML files, VR context XML and VR settings XML. You can open those in your regular Windows Notepad. I'm opening them in Notepad++. And you can see here there's quite some parameters that you can adjust. I found that tinkering with the IPD scale can be helpful if the game is too small, shown too small, or too big. This goes up to 50 actually. And note that down here you will have some shortcuts for the mod itself. F12 to reset the view, and some settings to raise or lower your graphical user interface, the HUD or the menus, to increase the distance, decrease the distance, rotate, and everything. So this is quite useful to make your VR experience of the flat game a bit better. Same thing for context. I think this is stuff that you can also adjust. I didn't try it. Feel free to try it yourself and let me know in the comments what's maybe important to know. Okay, how do you know the game can be modded? So for this purpose, I go to steamdb.info. This is a third-party website that actually lists all of the Steam games and all kinds of data about them. And the nice thing here is that it even shows the local game files, even if you didn't have installed the game on your system. You can check the local files from every game in SteamDB. So this is the next game we check, Guns, Gores and Cannoli. So to see the local files, you go to depots here on the left, and this basically shows you the content of the game file folders for different versions of the game. So we got the Windows version and the OS X version here. So we go with the Windows 2.7 gigabytes. Press that number and you will be listed all the game files that this game contains in an installed state. And here we search for Unity. So this is one way to see if the game was created in Unity. By the way, the developer says the mod would work only in games that have been created in Unity 5, which is from around 2015, to Unity 5.6, which is around 2017. And to make sure the mod would install, we search for the Unity Engine DLL file. So if that file is in the game, in the install folder, the mod will probably install properly, right? So we can see that in this game this file exists and we can install the mod. So same procedure here, we go to the local files on your drive. We got the executable here, we take the mod files, copy them and drag and drop the game executable onto the IPA executable. There we go. Here's the Unity DLL, right? Okay, the game is modded and we check it out in VR. Let's see what happens. We get a screen. Note that we have an arrow here. That's an artificial arrow, so we can navigate the menus with the mouse. And here we are in the VR view of the game. It's a 2D side-scroller, but still you can view it in VR. So the problem with this game is that the menu doesn't show up. So we have no other chance to memorize the menu navigation with the controller or the keyboard and mouse. I remember that it's like 2 presses with A, and we will get that rumbling sound. Just wait for it, and the level would load up. So that's actually the cool thing about the VR view of 2D scrollers. Most times you can view the whole level, not just the frame of the screen. Right? Sometimes, of course, it will look a bit broken and everything, but I think it's a cool way to play these 2D scrollers. So everything works as intended. Oh, yeah, you get the idea. So we will quit here. Stop game. Alright, and that's my short tutorial on how to mod Unity games to view them in VR. I also tried to create a public compatibility list. I will put it on Google. And here are my results. Right? It's 1 to 3. 1 means it's a nice VR experience, maybe with minor flaws. 2 means, okay, it can be viewed in VR, but it's probably broken. Like most times, the textures are messed up. I can show you one example. So this is how Black the Fall would look in a 2D view. And now compare it to the VR view with the Injector Mod. Looks more like that. So not really enjoyable. Also, many of the objects are not displayed, and yeah, it's kind of hard to play. But you have to try for yourself. And maybe check the table I created. And of course, it would be great if you add your own tested games here, so we can find more games that work nice with the VRGIN Injector Mod. So thank you very much. See you later.